Using commas in sentences. Commas in a series. Use commas to separate items in a series when you have 3 or more items. The items may be words, phrases, or clauses. You don't need a comma after the last item if it is followed by words. Pizza, nachos, and hot dogs are his favorite foods. We have 3 items: pizza, nachos, and hot dogs. We put a comma after pizza and after nachos, but not after hot dogs. The boy jumped the fence, climbed under the deck, and ran around the house. There we have 3 phrases: jumped the fence, climbed under the deck, and ran around the house. We need a comma after fence and after deck. I was running around the track, Dale was jumping hurdles, and Miriam was throwing the discus all at the same time. I was running around the track is a clause, Dale was jumping hurdles is a clause, and Miriam was throwing the discus as a clause. We need a comma after track and after hurdles. Commas are not needed if the items are joined by and, or nor. Here's an example. The poor guy was neither smart, nor talented, nor rich. We have smart, talented, and rich, and they're all joined with nor, so we don't need commas there. Use a comma after the introductory words first, second, third, and so on when they introduce items in a series. We plan on having a fun-packed day. First, shopping at the mall. Second, eating lunch at our favorite restaurant. And third, riding the ferry to the island. So we have a comma after first, after second, and after third. Commas with adjectives. Use commas between 2 or more adjectives that modify the same noun when they both equally modify the noun. Decide if the adjectives are equally describing the noun or if one adjective is describing the other. The cool, sweet liquid quenched her thirst. We have cool and sweet. Both are describing the liquid, so we use a comma to separate them. A comma can change the meaning of the adjectives. I think I'll wear my light green sweater. In the above sentence, the color of the sweater is light green. I think I'll wear my light green sweater. With the comma, the sweater is light, as in not heavy, and green. Don't use a comma after numbers and adjectives of size, shape, and age, such as 6 little geese, a large chocolate shake, a square wooden block, a young feisty puppy. Use commas with introductory elements. Use a comma after an introductory word, a mild interjection, or when addressing someone. No, he's staying to finish up. No is an introductory word, so we have a comma. Oh, I thought this seat was available. Oh is a mild interjection. Gabby, we will be leaving in a minute. That's when we are addressing somebody else. We put a comma after it. Use a comma after an introductory prepositional phrase that contains 1 or more additional prepositional phrases. In the middle of spring, the daffodils started to sprout. We have in the middle of spring, which is actually 2 prepositional phrases, so we use a comma. If a single prepositional phrase has a natural pause after it when reading, then add a comma. If the phrase is short and doesn't take a pause, then don't add a comma. In the beginning, our story didn't have much of a plot. In the beginning's a prepositional phrase, and we do pause a little after it, so put a comma. At first, we were hesitant to enter the room. At first is a prepositional phrase, but it's short and we don't have to pause, so we don't need a comma. Use a comma after an introductory verbal phrase. Balancing on 1 foot, he juggled the 3 balls effortlessly. Balancing on 1 foot is a participial phrase, and it's at the beginning, so we use a comma. Use a comma after an introductory adverb or adverb phrase. Effortlessly, he completed his act. Effortlessly is an adverb, but it's at the beginning of the sentence, so we use a comma. When we saw what he had done, we all applauded and cheered. When we saw what he had done is an adverb phrase, and it's at the beginning of the sentence, so we use a comma. Do not use a comma after a phrase or clause that is the subject of the sentence. What he did was astonishing. What he did in the sentence is acting as the subject. Winning the contest was a wonderful experience. Winning the contest is acting as the subject. Commas with interrupters. Use a comma to set off parenthetical expressions. Parenthetical expressions provide explanatory or supplementary information to the sentence. It was, nevertheless, a long and grueling experience. Nevertheless is a parenthetical expression, so we use commas. She was, by the way, the first female pilot in the Ohio Highway Patrol. By the way is just stuck in there for expression, so we use commas. Here's a chart with common parenthetical expressions. After all, generally speaking, however, on the other hand, in my opinion, consequently, in fact, fortunately, unfortunately. I believe, for example, in the first place, of course. I think, for instance, meanwhile, and nevertheless. Use commas to set off words of direct address. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for bringing that to my attention. The person you're talking to, Mr. Smith, isn't part of the sentence, so you put commas around it. It was my pleasure, ma'am. Again, ma'am is the person you're talking to, so you use a comma. Commas with non-essential elements. Use commas to set off non-essential clauses and non-essential participial phrases. These clauses and phrases add information to the sentence, but they are not essential to the meaning of the sentence. My friend Tara, who has taken ballet for 7 years, will be the lead dancer in the program. Who has taken ballet for 7 years is a clause that's adding more information, but if we take it out, the sentence still makes sense. My friend Tara will be the lead dancer in the program. So we put commas around it. The student afraid of being late ran down the hallway. Afraid of being late can be taken out. We could have the student ran down the hallway. So it's non-essential. We put commas around it. Use commas to set off non-essential appositives. A non-essential appositive is a word or phrase that adds information about a noun or pronoun, but doesn't have to be in the sentence. Mary, a girl in my Spanish class, is sitting with us at lunch. A girl in my Spanish class is describing Mary, but it doesn't need to be in the sentence. It could be taken out and the sentence would still make sense, so we use commas. An essential appositive is not set off with commas. An essential appositive needs to be in the sentence. Leading actor Joaquin Phoenix won the Oscar in 2020. Joaquin Phoenix is describing actor, and it needs to be in the sentence or we wouldn't know who we were talking about.